And gentlemen, first let me take this opportunity to thank the press first for being here today to cover us on this briefing. Also largely to thank the press for the coverage they gave to us and to other candidates during the whole process of 90 days of campaigns. Also like to take this opportunity to thank all the voters in this country who took off time to go and vote, and all those who participate in the whole electoral process. Also like to take this opportunity to thank the people who decided to put aside all the other activities and stand as candidates on the Alliance for National Transformation ticket at all levels. To thank all our coordinators all over the country, to thank all the supporters who coordinated the effort. Also to thank the colleagues of PFF at different sub-regions with whom we corroborated effort in this whole electoral exercise for the presidential campaign. Also like to thank the press team that we moved around with throughout the whole country, and also to thank the security detail that we moved with around the whole country, to thank the Ugandan population, those who have not given up hope, who continue struggling, knowing that there definitely can be a better tomorrow. The other day, or a couple of days back, on the 15th, we went through the voting process itself, and basically went through another choreographed activity with the predetermined outcomes. To many of us, I think that is nothing new. I could endeavor to go through the details of how the choreographing process happened, but I'm not going to go into that. We have gone through it quite a number of times in the past, where manufactured results are done more so at the presidential level, but also a number of other areas where you find there are complications at the parliamentary level. Ballot staffing, ticking of votes on the table. There are quite a number of areas where people never vote, more so at the parliamentary, at the presidential level. The use of money, which has become a plague, if I may say, which I really hope is not going to end up causing this country having deep problems where we're heading if that continues. The outcomes have been announced, as has happened in the past. So the issue really now is not who won, who lost. As far as I'm concerned, the issue is what happens next. If you have a country with a growing population as it is, that's fact. If you have a country where the depth of frustration and anger is real, that's fact. Where you find that people at the same time have more or less lost hope, that's fact. What does that mean? As we said all along in the whole process of the campaign, we are sitting on a volcano. It's active, but many people don't feel the activity yet because it is, in a sense, concealed. What we don't know is, will it be diffused? Will it erupt? And if it was to erupt, when would that be? Nobody knows when that would be. But when you have a population that is growing, where all avenues of resolving the contradictions which happen and the challenges which they are faced with, all avenues that ordinarily would solve the problems are more or less closed. You're bound to have a crisis down the road if there are no interventions. So we need to look at the facts as they are. People who are angry, people who are frustrated, people who have lost hope. When you have a country where 10 million people simply don't turn up to vote in a voting population of 21 million. So where do we stand today? The facts still stand. Joblessness of the youth, Many who are getting frustrated to the point that they are resorting to easy ways of what they would think, would alleviate their problems, going to drugs, going to all kinds of destructive behavior. Deep levels of poverty, heavy indebtedness, not only of the country, but even at individual levels. Lack of drugs in hospitals, and all the challenges that people are faced with. There are those who had hoped that change could happen through an electoral process. It has not happened. There are those who think that the situation is okay. Many of us believe that the situation is not okay. When you have an electoral process, the outcomes of which, after being announced, that you have to have a blanket of security, keeping the tight lead, the lead tight on the country. It works a number of times, but when you don't deal with the situation where, for example, there's an active volcano, for how long do you maintain that kind of security? Are you going to maintain it 24/7? Are you going to maintain it the whole year? We have seen a number of times when simple things trigger eruptions. We have seen it elsewhere. So even when you maintain a tight lead around the electoral, with the time when they announce the electoral outcomes, for how long do you sustain that? Is the question. I would like to believe that the phase, because indeed we are going to a new phase, and there are many, I believe there are going to be many people discussing this phase. Inevitably, whether people like it or not, there are many people who will be discussing an issue of transition. How does it get handled? What nature of processes are put in place for the issue to be handled? All those are questions that we need to deal with. Considering the situation that we talked about, an increasing population, joblessness, hopelessness, frustration, anger. How do you diffuse all that? The next 5 years is going to be a very complex phase. As for us in Alliance for National Transformation, consistent with the way we operate, now that we've finished going through the campaign and the voting process, we'll do a review. Many of our leaders are still up country. We hope in the shortest possible time that many will be back. We'll hold our meetings, internal meetings, to do a review of the exercise, discuss the way forward. Of course, we also have, as we did last time, 2021, meet our candidates, meet our coordinators, do reviews, and also train the leaders who would have gone through at the local government level, as we did last year. This time around, we are fortunate enough, and would like to thank first Honorable Ismail Kasule for presenting himself on our ticket, also to thank the people of Hoima for blessing us with a member of parliament. We will, therefore, with all the leaders who would have gone through, including at the local level, train them as we did last year, and then would also continue with the processes which were incomplete by the time we went into this electoral process, building, as we believe, a vehicle for good governance, going back down where we would operate at the sub-county level. By the time we went into the electoral process, we had covered roughly about 40% of the country. So we will go there to continue the exercise until we complete 100%. However long it takes, we'll continue at that, because we know that unless we have a party which is values-driven, with leaders who are values-driven, all the things that we see are simply band-aids. With the situation change, with the new dispensation in terms of the regime that has been announced, at a personal level, I highly doubt, because we are dealing with culture. Many of the leaders who will be going to parliament, those who are, General Museveni has been announced again as the president, as the new elected president, I don't think they have got the capability first to feel what is going on the ground. We had an opportunity to touch base with the people down there who got hospitals and they find there are no drugs. When they clearly see that the country it has the wealth, if it was well managed, that could cater for such a challenge. We met a number of youth who are frustrated because they are jobless. And many, where the population would give us information all the time, and almost all the districts where I went to. The few jobs which are available are there for sale. You don't have money, you don't get a job. Those are challenges we don't believe are going to be resolved by this kind of regime because of the organizational culture, because of the mindset in which they operate. At the same time, we in Alliance for National Transformation operate from a mindset of being long-distance runners. We run marathons. We don't run sprints because we know to build an organization with values-driven leaders requires patience, painstaking effort. I know there are Ugandans out there who are honest men and women. You know, this morning I was coming from home. I passed by a petrol station. I was going to put fuel in the vehicle. And by mistake, I never recognized it. I gave this young man, in my own estimate, he should be about maybe 24, 25 when you look at his face. I was going to put in 100,000 shillings of fuel. I gave him 150 without realizing it. And then I saw him returning money to me. He says, "You gave me more money than what I put in." You know, when you recognize that kind of act in a situation where people have given up hope, where they think that everybody is just taking care of himself, everybody is almost dishonest, that kind of act gives us the fuel that enables us to keep moving. There are many honest men and women in this country. We'll keep organizing, and we know that there's going to be a point when there's going to be a turn around. This country must be taken over by people, men and women who are honest, who have integrity, who know that yes, you can make money, but you need to make it the right way. That's the path we're going to keep walking as Alliance for National Transformation. So soon, once we go through our internal process of reviews and discussions, we will again put out our program on how we're going to be moving around the country to continue this building process. There are many who may say, "Oh, as if these people on Mars," as some people tend to say. The example of the guy who was building an ark, Noah's Ark, many people didn't even believe what he was talking about. But there is a time when a flood came, and I can really reflect or think what happened when the flood actually came. Noah built an ark, and it was instrumental in the continuation of life as we knew it, humanity as we knew it. Had he not prepared, maybe humanity would have ended at that point. We have to keep building. We have to keep organizing. There are men and women in this country who want to see a better country, and we want to give them that option. But there is a group which, whatever circumstances, whatever challenges we meet, that we are not going to give up, because that's the intention of the regime. They are broken down people, leaders, the population. We will not go that route. We'll continue organizing. We'll continue building. There's going to be a time when what we build is going to become necessary and critical to turn around this country and put it back on the right track. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, thank you for covering this session. First, we are going to have a toll hold in Parliament. We're going to have one member of Parliament. On the question of how the issue of iPod, basically I cannot give a response to that until the party organ that makes the decisions for the party meets, because we have to do deep analysis of the whole situation and then make a decision in the best interest not only of the party, in the interest of the country, in the interest of those who believe in what we do. So once we meet, which I suppose would most likely be early February, we will meet and then we will discuss the way forward in regard to that.